That thermometer is reading 60 degrees. The man holding it is sitting in snow, out in the open timber, and the air around him is 30 below. There's no stove under that blanket, no heater, no battery, nothing anybody had to buy. There's one candle, about the size of your finger, and the candle is not what's doing it. What nobody tells you about staying warm and killing cold is that making the heat was never the hard part. Keeping it was. And the old ones had that worked out long before anybody sold a sleeping bag. Heat leaves a body 4 ways and only 4. It goes down into whatever you're sitting on. It gets stripped off sideways by the wind. It radiates straight up into open sky. And it walks out of your own mouth in the wet of your breath. Every single thing happening under that blanket is plugging one of those 4 holes. And by the time we're done here, you'll be able to do the same thing with a wool blanket and an armload of spruce. I'm Wes Kingfisher. What I bring you comes from the old accounts, the skills native peoples used on this land for thousands of years, gathered from historical records and traditional knowledge, and told the way an elder would tell it, plain, slow, and in the right order. The old ones knew things we've nearly forgotten. So listen close. But this doesn't start with the blanket. It starts with the ground underneath it. Now, the old accounts take something for granted that nearly every modern gear catalog quietly skips. You are the heat source. Not the fire, not the candle. You, a grown man sitting perfectly still, doing nothing at all, gives off about as much heat as one of those old 100-watt bulbs, and he does it every minute he's breathing, whether he's paying attention or not. So think about what that means out in the winter woods at 30 below. You are already making heat. You've been making it all day. The cold isn't overpowering you. It's carrying your heat off faster than your body can replace it. And that's a race the cold wins nearly every time, because almost nobody thinks to slow it down. The question underneath every one of these accounts is where the heat is going, and they answer it 4 ways in a strict order, and the order matters more than any single piece of it. The ground comes first. It's the one that takes people who did everything else right. Snow looks soft, and it is soft, and that's exactly what fools you. Snow holds warmth for one reason only, which is that snow is mostly trapped air. But the second you sit down on it, your own weight crushes that air right out. What's left underneath you is packed ice, pressed flat against you. And solid cold against a body pulls heat out of it far quicker than cold air ever will. You already know this without knowing it. A metal railing at 20 degrees hurts your bare hand. 20-degree air doesn't. Then it gets worse, because your own heat melts that packed ice, and now you're sitting in water. Wet is what actually finishes a man off out there, more than the cold ever manages on its own. The old accounts are consistent about this across the whole continent. Nobody lay down on the ground. Peoples of the northern woodlands cut spruce and fir boughs and laid them in overlapping rows, butt ends down and tips angled up, shingled like a roof, and they built that bed before they built anything else, before the walls, before the fire. Now, the bed of boughs I'm describing has its own page in the Native Shelter Protocol. That book is 50 shelters and warmth skills from all across this land, drawn out plain from the accounts of the people who built them. And every last one came from somebody with no hardware store and no forecast, who slept warm anyway. Snow caves up north, wickiups down in the desert, getting up off the ground and holding the heat you already have. It's for anybody who has ever looked at a closet full of gear and wondered what happens the night that gear quits. Because a tent has a temperature where it stops working, and the people in these accounts never had one. Written down plain, so none of it gets lost. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you're watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. And there's a test for that bough bed, an old one, and it's still the right test. You press your hand down, flat on it. If you can feel the ground through it, it isn't deep enough. Double it and press again. Now, not every country grows spruce, and the accounts don't pretend it does. Down where the timber thins out, the same job got done with dry grass, with cattail leaves, with slabs of bark peeled off a dead standing tree, with a hide laid first side down against the snow. Out on the plains, the buffalo robe went down first and the sleeper went on top of it. In the far north, the platform inside a snow house was cut higher than the floor and piled with hide. Different material in every country, and the same idea underneath all of it. Break the contact. Get still air between you and the cold thing. That's the Native American way of it. And the way is always the same underneath. Use what the country gives you, waste nothing, and understand why the thing works, because the old ones always knew why. The second fix is the wrap, and it's the one that gets done backwards more often than any other. A blanket does not warm you. Nothing warms you but you. What a wool blanket actually does is hold a layer of still air against your skin, and still air is about the best insulation there is on this earth. But the word that matters in that sentence is still. Move that air, and it's worth nothing. That's all wind really is. Unol, the Cherokee word for wind. And what unol does is strip the warm air off your body and shove fresh cold in to replace it over and over, faster than you can warm the new batch, which is why the old accounts describe the buffalo robe worn hair side in, turned against the body. The hair is what holds the air. Wool does the same job a different way, and that's exactly why wool kept working on this continent long after the robes were gone, and why it still works when it's damp. So, look again at what that man is doing under there, because he isn't just draping cloth over himself. He is sitting down. He's got his legs crossed, and that blanket comes over his head and falls all the way down until the bottom edge is resting on the bedding, not hanging loose in the air. He hasn't wrapped himself in a blanket. He has built himself a room, a small one, but the floor is boughs, the walls are wool, the roof is over his head, and every bit of air inside it belongs to him now. Here's the detail almost everybody misses. The thickness of that blanket matters far less than the closing of it. A thin blanket sealed down to the bedding will beat a thick one with a gap at the bottom every time, because that gap is a chimney, and a chimney is the last thing you want under there. And now, only now, does the candle mean anything. That little flame in front of him would do absolutely nothing in a house. You could burn it all night in your living room and never move the thermostat to hair. But a candle puts out the same heat wherever it burns. What changes is the size of the room it's burning in. Shrink the room down to the size of a barrel, and that same small flame becomes a real part of the arithmetic. Peoples of the far north took this further than anybody on earth. The Inuit burned a lamp they called a quillik, a shallow soapstone dish of seal or whale oil with a wick of trim moss laid along one edge, and inside a snow house that single lamp did the lighting, the cooking, the drying of wet boots and mitts, and the heating, all of it at once, on a flame you could cover with your hand. And there's a piece of that which hardly ever gets told. The lamp's heat melted the inside surface of the snow dome, just slightly. When it refroze, It left a thin shell of ice on the inner wall. That shell sealed the whole structure against wind, and it made the dome stronger at the same time. The lamp was building the house tighter every hour it burned. Nobody worked that out on paper. Somebody noticed it, and then everybody knew it. 10,000 years of testing. That's the guarantee on this one. Now I want to be plain and serious for a minute, because this is the one place where the old accounts and modern good sense have to be spoken in the same breath. Any flame burning in a closed space eats the air and gives off a gas you cannot see and cannot smell. And that gas will put a man to sleep, and he will not wake up from it. So the vent is not a suggestion. Never seal yourself in with a flame going. Never take a flame into a closed vehicle. And use the flame as your own gauge, the way the accounts describe it being used. If it drops down small and yellow and lazy, your air's going bad. And you open things up right then, not in a minute. Which brings us to the smartest single piece of engineering in this whole business. And it's the one you would never guess from the outside. Warm air floats, cold air sinks. That's it. That's the whole principle, and every shelter in these accounts is built around it. In a snow house, the doorway and the entry passage sit lower than the floor you sleep on. You crawl in below, and you climb up onto the platform. The cold air pouring in that door has no way to get up to you. It runs down into the low part of the tunnel, and it settles there, in a pit, doing nothing at all. Meanwhile, the warm air your body and that lamp are making floats up to the top of the dome and gets caught, because a dome hasn't got corners for it to leak out through, which is why you climb up into one of these, never down. There's a small hole at the top too, kept open, poked clear with a stick whenever it iced over. It lets a little heat go. That's the trade, and it's a good one. And it's the same trade as the vent under that blanket. Pay close attention to this next part, because it explains why snow shows up in so many of these accounts to begin with. Snow is mostly air. A wall of snow is a wall of trapped air with a bit of ice holding it in place. And that is the entire reason a snow house works. The people who built them were using the cold itself as building material, because on that country, it was the only material standing in any direction. And the same thinking shows up in a place you would never think to look for it. The Lakota engineered something into the teepee that no modern tent has matched, and it is a plain piece of cloth. Inside the teepee, there's a second wall, hung from the poles and running from the ground up to about shoulder height, tied in the whole way around. The accounts call it a liner or a dew cloth. Between that liner and the outer cover, there's a gap. Cold air, sliding in under the edge of the cover, gets caught in that gap and channeled straight up and out the top, instead of blowing across the floor where the people are sitting. So it does two jobs at once. It puts a pocket of still air all the way around the living space, and it sends the draft up the outside of that pocket, which feeds the smoke hole and makes the fire draw better. Warmer floor, better draw, and the whole of it done with one sheet hung on the inside of the poles. So that's 4 fixes for 4 leaks, except every bit of it can be undone by 2 things, and both of them come out of you. The first is sweat. This is the one that catches strong, capable people. Because strong, capable people work hard. You put on everything you own, you break trail for a while, you sweat into your layers, and then you stop moving. Now the water is inside your clothing, and it is pulling the heat out of you all night long. The old accounts describe stripping down before the hard climb and not after it. So the rule is a cold one. If you're comfortable the minute you start walking, you're wearing too much. Start out a little chilly and let the work warm you up. The second is your own breath. Every breath you push out is warm water, and if you're breathing under that blanket, you're wetting the wool from the inside. And wet wool holds far less air, and less air means less warmth. So the face stays out. It feels backwards, sticking your nose out into 30 below on purpose. Do it anyway. The accounts are on the side of the cold nose. And one plain word about the body itself, and then I'll leave it alone. Deep cold takes the fingers, the toes, the ears, and the nose first, and the sign is skin gone white and hard and numb to the touch. If you see that on somebody, you get them warm and you get them help. That part is a doctor's business, not mine. So here it is, all of it, in the order the old accounts put it in, because the order is most of the answer. The ground comes first, always, before anything else. Boughs, grass, bark, hide, whatever the country gives you, deep enough that your flat hand can't find the coal through it. Then you close the edges, so the still air you're making has no way to run out the bottom. Then you keep the room small, because the smaller that room is, the more your own body counts inside it. Then, and only then, a small flame, because a small flame in a small sealed room is worth more than a big fire out in the open air. And a vent every single time. No exceptions ever. Do those in that order, and here's what you've got. That reading of 60 degrees on the face of that thermometer isn't heat a candle added. It's heat that never left. Nobody in those accounts had a word for insulation. They didn't need one. They had a bed of boughs, a robe with the hair turned in, a wall of snow with the air still sitting inside it, and one small flame in a room small enough for it to count. And they raised children through winters that would take most of us in a single night on this same ground under this same sky, with nothing in any of it that had to be bought from anybody. And the whole of that is written down in the Native Shelter Protocol, drawn out plain, from the snow caves up north to the wiki-ups down in the desert, told the way the accounts themselves tell it. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera and point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up. Give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Now, if you enjoyed this video, you will enjoy the video right now on screen even more. I can assure you on that. Click it right now, my friend.